Imagine this, the hills of Los Angeles ablaze, the sky painted a fiery orange, and smoke engulfing everything in sight. It's a scene we've witnessed before. But what if the real story behind these wildfires is far more sinister than anyone dares to imagine? What if it's not just nature or climate at work, but something darker, something hidden in plain sight? Now picture Mel Gibson, the Hollywood icon who's no stranger to controversy, stepping onto live TV, his face etched with intensity. With the nation watching, he begins to speak, dropping bombshells that no one was ready for. Gibson exposes startling details, connecting dots that many overlooked. Details that point to a web of deception, power, and unimaginable motives behind the chaos. What secrets could a man with decades of insider knowledge in Hollywood possibly uncover? And why is no one else talking about this? As he reveals the shocking connections, it becomes clear that this isn't just about the wildfires. It's about control, greed, and forces operating in the shadows, pulling the strings of an unsuspecting public. His revelations leave the audience stunned, gasping for answers, and questioning everything they thought they knew about the fires that continue to ravage California year after year. Could this be the revelation that changes everything? Or is it just the beginning of a deeper mystery? Stay with us as we unpack Gibson's chilling statements and uncover the truth that could shake not just Los Angeles, but the entire world. It was a seemingly ordinary evening on live television when Mel Gibson, known for his bold statements and refusal to shy away from controversy, shocked the world with revelations about the recent LA wildfires. The audience expected a standard Hollywood soundbite, but instead, they were drawn into a narrative so unnerving it left many questioning everything they believed about these disasters. Gibson began by addressing the obvious, the catastrophic destruction caused by the wildfires. Hundreds of homes reduced to ash, thousands of people displaced, and the air thick with smoke for weeks on end. But what he said next made viewers sit up in disbelief. According to Gibson, the fires weren't just a result of environmental factors or negligence. He claimed they were part of a calculated plan, a hidden agenda executed by forces that thrive on chaos, fear, and destruction. He pointed to the unusual patterns of the fires. "These aren't normal," Gibson said, his voice steady but charged with urgency. He questioned why some houses burned to the ground while others, right next door, remained untouched. Satellite images, he revealed, showed unnatural anomalies in the fire's spread. This, he suggested, was no random act of nature but the work of advanced technology deliberately targeting specific areas. Gibson's accusations didn't end there. He drew attention to the corporations that benefit from the aftermath of these disasters. Real estate developers, he claimed, were eyeing the charred land to build lucrative commercial properties. "You think they're mourning these losses?" he asked. "They're celebrating opportunities." His words painted a grim picture of a world where profit and power overshadow human lives. Adding fuel to the fire, Gibson hinted at the involvement of shadowy elites, a network of powerful individuals and organizations that manipulate events for their gain. He described a chilling scenario where the wildfires serve as a cover for land grabs, wealth redistribution, and even the testing of experimental technologies. The actor's allegations seemed far-fetched to some, but the evidence he presented couldn't be ignored. Reports of directed energy weapons, DEWs, and unexplained heat signatures in wildfire zones gave weight to his claims. But why, Gibson asked, would anyone intentionally set such devastation in motion? The answer, he suggested, lies in control. When people are scared, they're easier to manipulate, he said. They'll accept new laws, new rules, and new restrictions because they're desperate for safety. And that's when the real power players make their moves. His words struck a nerve, resonating with those who've long suspected ulterior motives behind catastrophic events. What made Gibson's claims even more chilling was his personal connection to Hollywood's inner circle. As a veteran actor and filmmaker, he's seen the machinery of influence up close. He alleged that the entertainment industry is complicit in distracting the masses, feeding them narratives that keep them docile while the real agenda unfolds behind the scenes. "You think those blockbuster disaster movies are just entertainment?" he asked. "They're conditioning. They're preparing you to accept this as the new normal." The live broadcast ended with Gibson urging viewers to look deeper, to question what they're told, and to follow the money trail. He didn't claim to have all the answers, but made it clear that what's presented as a natural disaster might be anything but. His words sent shockwaves across social media, with some calling him a hero for speaking out, and others dismissing him as a conspiracy theorist. In the days that followed, the story gained momentum. Independent researchers and journalists began to investigate the claims Gibson made, Some found supporting evidence like unusual patterns in insurance payouts and land acquisitions. Others dismissed his statements as sensationalist. But one thing was certain: Gibson's revelations had opened a Pandora's box and the world was paying attention. As the debate raged on, one question lingered: who would benefit from orchestrating such chaos, and to what end? For now, the answers remain elusive, but Gibson's words have ignited a fire of their own, one that refuses to be extinguished. As Mel Gibson's revelations sent shockwaves through the media, a darker layer of the story began to unfold, a connection between the Hollywood elite and the devastating wildfires. While it may sound like the plot of a conspiracy thriller, Gibson's insider knowledge hinted at a disturbing intersection of entertainment, influence, and power. According to Gibson, Hollywood has long been a breeding ground for hidden agendas. He claimed that certain factions within the industry are not just complicit in distracting the public, but are actively benefiting from the chaos caused by events like the wildfires. These claims took the conversation beyond the scope of natural disasters and into a realm where art, money, and manipulation collide. One of the most unsettling connections Gibson highlighted was the timing of major Hollywood productions. "Have you noticed how many disaster movies are released around the time of real-life catastrophes?" he asked. Films depicting widespread destruction, societal collapse, and survival against insurmountable odds seem to mirror the chaos unfolding in the real world. According to Gibson, this is no coincidence. He suggested that these movies serve as psychological conditioning, training audiences to accept devastating events as inevitable and beyond human control. Gibson also pointed to the financial ties between certain Hollywood executives and industries that stand to gain from wildfire devastation. Real estate, insurance, and even technology firms reportedly maintain close relationships with entertainment moguls, creating a network where influence flows both ways. The implication was clear: Hollywood doesn't just tell stories, it shapes perceptions and, in doing so, protects the interests of its allies. Moreover, Gibson alleged that some celebrities and executives are involved in land acquisitions in areas affected by wildfires. "They're buying up land for pennies on the dollar," he claimed, suggesting that these deals are facilitated by the destruction of properties. The idea that influential figures might benefit from the suffering of others added a sinister dimension to an already shocking narrative. Perhaps the most controversial part of Gibson's revelations was his assertion that the entertainment industry uses its platform to discredit those who question the official narratives. "If you're skeptical, they label you a conspiracy theorist," he said. "But isn't it ironic that the people controlling the narrative are the same ones profiting from it?" He argued that Hollywood's portrayal of skeptics as unhinged or paranoid is a deliberate tactic to silence dissent and maintain control. As more people began to connect the dots, a chilling pattern emerged. From blockbuster movies to media coverage, the influence of Hollywood extends far beyond the silver screen. It shapes how we see the world, what we fear, and what we're willing to accept. And according to Gibson, this power is being used not to inform or entertain, but to manipulate and control. The revelations about Hollywood's dark connections to the wildfires have sparked fierce debate. Critics argue that Gibson's claims are baseless and sensationalist, while supporters believe he's shedding light on truths that many are too afraid to confront. Regardless of where one stands, his words have forced a re-examination of the entertainment industry's role in shaping our reality. As the pieces of this puzzle come together, one thing is clear: the story is far from over. Gibson's allegations have opened the door to questions that demand answers. What role does Hollywood truly play in the events that shape our world? And how deep do these connections go? For now, the answers remain hidden in the shadows, but the search for the truth continues. The final piece of Mel Gibson's jaw-dropping exposé pulled back the curtain on the enigmatic forces orchestrating these events: the shadow players. Gibson described them as a loose coalition of influential elites, their identities obscured but their motives glaringly evident. Who are these shadowy figures, and why would they push the world into such chaos? According to Gibson, the shadow players operate at the intersection of wealth, technology, and politics. They are not bound by nations, laws, or allegiances, but are instead united by their insatiable appetite for power. These individuals, he claimed, use crises like the LA wildfires as instruments to achieve their broader objectives. But what exactly are those objectives? Central to Gibson's allegations was the theory of land grabs. As fires rage, they render previously unaffordable areas barren and ripe for redevelopment. Through proxies, these elites acquire the land at a fraction of its value, transforming it into high-profit ventures ranging from tech campuses to luxury estates. "The ashes are their gold mine," Gibson said, painting a grim picture of exploitation. But it wasn't just about land. Gibson delved into the technological tools allegedly employed by these players. He brought up whispers of directed energy weapons, DEWs, devices capable of starting fires with pinpoint precision. "Have you seen the videos of trees burning from the inside out?" he asked. "This isn't nature. This is technology, and it's being used for domination." Gibson's statement sent shockwaves, as footage of inexplicable fire patterns had been circulating online, fueling conspiracy theories that suddenly didn't seem so far-fetched. More alarming was Gibson's assertion about the economic motives. Insurance payouts, redevelopment funds, and federal emergency aid amount to billions of dollars shifting hands after such disasters. He argued that the shadow players position themselves to profit at every stage, whether by investing in companies that benefit from rebuilding or by influencing policies to steer funds their way. "This isn't just about money, it's about control. Financial dependence means power," he declared. Then came the most chilling aspect of all: Gibson's belief that the destruction serves as a form of psychological warfare. By destabilizing communities and instilling fear, the shadow players can pave the way for radical societal changes. In moments of desperation, people accept solutions they might otherwise reject: more surveillance, tighter regulations, and a growing divide between the powerful and the powerless. Gibson warned that this divide-and-conquer strategy was as old as history itself, only now it was being deployed on a global scale. As his revelations unfolded, skeptics demanded proof. Gibson responded by pointing to patterns, a trail of money, unusual coincidences, and the complicity of those in power. "Follow the money," he urged again, emphasizing that the truth was hidden in plain sight for those willing to connect the dots. Critics quickly dismissed his claims as baseless, accusing him of paranoia or seeking attention. But a growing number of independent researchers began uncovering details that aligned with Gibson's warnings. Reports of sudden land acquisitions, unexplained fire outbreaks, and corporate beneficiaries began surfacing, lending credence to his narrative. Could it all be a coincidence, or was there truly a shadowy network pulling the strings? Gibson concluded his exposé with a warning. "This isn't just about fires," he said. "This is about a world being shaped without your consent, by people you'll never see, for reasons you may never understand." His words lingered like smoke in the air, haunting, provocative, and impossible to ignore. Mel Gibson's explosive claims about the LA wildfires were shocking enough, but it was the evidence he unveiled that left audiences reeling. Over the course of several interviews and public appearances, Gibson painted a vivid picture of manipulation, exploitation, and a world driven by hidden motives. His evidence ranged from satellite images to insider accounts, each piece fitting together to form a puzzle that was as terrifying as it was compelling. The first and most startling piece of evidence came in the form of satellite imagery. Gibson pointed to photos that revealed unusual heat signatures in the areas most affected by the fires. These weren't the sprawling, chaotic patterns typical of natural wildfires. Instead, the images showed concentrated points of extreme heat, suggesting the use of technology capable of igniting fires with precision. "This isn't random," Gibson stated emphatically. "It's targeted." Supporting this claim were eyewitness accounts from residents in the affected areas. Many reported seeing strange lights or beams in the sky shortly before the fires broke out. Videos circulated on social media showing inexplicable phenomena: trees burning from the inside out, metal objects melted while surrounding vegetation remained untouched. Gibson highlighted these anomalies as potential evidence of directed energy weapons, DEWs, a technology that has long been the subject of speculation but rarely discussed in the mainstream. But the evidence didn't stop there. Gibson also presented documents and reports linking major corporations to the aftermath of the wildfires. Real estate companies, he argued, were poised to benefit from the destruction, snapping up land at rock-bottom prices. Insurance firms, too, stood to gain, as policies were rewritten and premiums soared in the wake of the fires. "Follow the money," Gibson urged, repeating a phrase that had become a mantra throughout his exposé. "The trail always leads back to those who profit." Perhaps the most damning piece of evidence was the timeline Gibson laid out. He pointed to legislation passed shortly before the wildfires, laws that made it easier for corporations to acquire land in fire-damaged areas. "This isn't a coincidence," he argued. "This is a coordinated effort." Gibson's timeline also included patterns of media coverage, with headlines that seemed to downplay the human cost of the fires while emphasizing opportunities for rebuilding and redevelopment. Gibson also called attention to the role of the media in shaping public perception. He accused major news outlets of deliberately ignoring or discrediting alternative explanations for the wildfires. "They're not just reporting the news," he said. "They're controlling the narrative." He pointed to instances where journalists who questioned the official story were silenced or discredited, their careers derailed by what Gibson described as a coordinated smear campaign. Adding to the intrigue were Gibson's references to whistleblowers, individuals who had come forward with information about the wildfires but were too afraid to speak publicly. He described receiving anonymous tips and leaked documents, some of which he shared with independent investigators. These whistleblowers, Gibson claimed, painted a picture of corruption and collusion that extended to the highest levels of government and industry. One of the most chilling aspects of Gibson's evidence was its implications for the future. If the wildfires were indeed orchestrated, what other disasters might be manufactured for profit and control? Gibson warned that the fires could be just the beginning, a test run for more extensive operations designed to reshape society. "This is bigger than any one event," he said. "This is about setting a precedent, about normalizing the unthinkable." Critics were quick to dismiss Gibson's evidence as circumstantial or exaggerated. Some accused him of fear-mongering, while others questioned the validity of the documents and reports he presented. But for many, the sheer volume of information Gibson provided was enough to warrant further investigation. Independent researchers and citizen journalists began digging into his claims, uncovering additional details that lent credibility to his warnings. As the evidence continued to mount, the public's response was divided. Some saw Gibson as a courageous whistleblower, risking his career to expose the truth. Others viewed him as a conspiracy theorist, spinning wild tales without solid proof. But regardless of where one stood, it was clear that Gibson's revelations had struck a nerve. The conversation about the LA wildfires and the forces behind them was far from over. In the end, Gibson's evidence served as both a warning and a call to action. He urged people to question the narratives they were fed, to dig deeper, and to demand transparency from those in power. "The truth is out there," he said, echoing a sentiment that resonated with millions. "You just have to be willing to see it." As Mel Gibson's exposé unraveled deeper truths about the LA wildfires, it became increasingly clear that these devastating events were not just disasters, they were tools in a high-stakes power game. Beneath the smokescreens of tragedy and environmental explanations lay a chilling web of influence, control, and hidden motives. According to Gibson, the fires were part of a broader agenda orchestrated by powerful players aiming to reshape society and consolidate power. Gibson opened this chapter of his revelations by addressing the unthinkable, that the wildfires were not merely natural catastrophes, but were being exploited, or even orchestrated, to serve a larger, more sinister purpose. "These aren't just flames consuming homes and forests," Gibson declared. "They're burning away freedom, stability, and trust, paving the way for something far more dangerous." At the heart of this power game lies the concept of fear. Gibson suggested that fear is the ultimate currency for those in power, a tool to manipulate the masses into compliance. When people are frightened, whether by raging wildfires or the uncertainty they bring, they become more susceptible to accepting drastic changes. "Think about it," Gibson urged. "When disaster strikes, what's the first thing people demand? Safety. And who provides it? The same people who stand to gain from our fear. One of the most alarming aspects Gibson highlighted was how the aftermath of the fires played directly into the hands of those seeking control. Entire communities, already weakened by destruction and displacement, became vulnerable to policies and initiatives that would have been unthinkable under normal circumstances. Increased surveillance, restricted freedoms, and sweeping land reforms were just some of the changes quietly implemented under the guise of recovery and rebuilding efforts. This isn't about helping people rebuild their lives, Gibson said. It's about rebuilding control. One law, one restriction, one piece of land at a time. Central to this power game was the role of land ownership. Gibson pointed out that wildfires rendered vast stretches of land uninhabitable, forcing families to abandon their homes and leaving prime real estate ripe for the taking. He accused influential corporations and elites of swooping in to buy up the land at bargain prices, all under the pretense of redevelopment and economic recovery. They're not just acquiring land, Gibson claimed. They're acquiring influence, reshaping neighborhoods and creating zones of wealth and power while pushing the rest of us to the margins. Gibson's accusations didn't stop at land grabs. He delved into the realm of experimental technology and its role in the wildfires. While the idea of directed energy weapons, DEWs, had already captured public attention, Gibson expanded on the implications of such technologies being tested in plain sight. He suggested that these fires were not just about destruction. They were experiments in control, testing the limits of technology's ability to alter the physical world. If they can control fire, they can control anything, he warned. And what's stopping them from using these tools on a global scale? But the power game wasn't limited to physical destruction. Gibson pointed to the psychological impact of the fires, describing them as a form of societal conditioning. By normalizing chaos and instilling a sense of helplessness, those in power could prepare the public to accept more intrusive measures in the name of safety and order. When people feel powerless, Gibson said, they're willing to trade their freedom for security, and that's exactly what the players in this game want. Gibson also touched on the economic dimensions of this power play. Beyond the immediate destruction, the wildfires triggered a cascade of financial benefits for those positioned to profit. From inflated insurance premiums to government relief funds, billions of dollars flowed through systems controlled by a select few. Gibson accused these power players of deliberately engineering a cycle of destruction and profit, ensuring that they came out on top every time. It's a rigged game, he said, and the rest of us are just pawns. What made Gibson's revelations even more unsettling was the idea that the wildfires were just the beginning. He warned that similar events could be orchestrated on a larger scale, targeting not just land, but entire systems of governance and economy. This isn't about one city or one state, he said. It's about reshaping the world order one disaster at a time. As chilling as these claims were, Gibson also offered a glimmer of hope. He urged the public to question everything, to look beyond the surface and uncover the truths hidden in plain sight. The power game only works if we let it, he said. If we stay silent, if we stay scared, they win. But if we ask questions, demand answers, and refuse to play by their rules, we can take back control. In the wake of Gibson's revelations, the debate over the LA wildfires took on a new dimension. Were these events merely acts of nature, or were they part of a calculated strategy to consolidate power? For now, the answers remain elusive. But one thing is certain: the fires may have burned through homes and forests, but they've also ignited a firestorm of questions that refuses to be extinguished. Gibson's final words on the subject resonated like a warning bell. This isn't just about the wildfires, he said. It's about the world we're leaving behind. A world where power is concentrated in the hands of a few, and the rest of us are left to watch it all burn. Mel Gibson's revelations about the LA wildfires have ignited more than just debate. They've sparked a movement, a call for transparency, and a push to confront the shadows that loom over modern society. Whether hailed as a courageous whistleblower or dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, Gibson's claims have left an indelible mark on the public consciousness, challenging us to reevaluate the narratives we accept without question. At the heart of Gibson's expose lies an uncomfortable truth: that disasters, whether natural or man-made, often serve as catalysts for hidden agendas. The LA wildfires, as he described them, were more than environmental tragedies. They were meticulously exploited, or perhaps even orchestrated, to consolidate power, redistribute wealth, and manipulate societal structures. By connecting the dots between the fires, land grabs, technological experiments, and Hollywood's complicity, Gibson painted a chilling portrait of a world where chaos is not an anomaly, but a tool of control. The implications of his claims are profound. If true, they suggest that the systems we trust, governments, corporations, media, and even the entertainment industry, are deeply intertwined in a web of influence designed to serve the few at the expense of the many. The wildfires become more than flames consuming forests and homes. They symbolize a broader struggle between the powerful and the powerless, between manipulation and truth. But beyond the accusations, Gibson's revelations carry a deeper message: the importance of vigilance. His repeated mantra to follow the money is a reminder to question the narratives presented to us, to seek out the motives behind the actions of those in power, and to remain critical of institutions that prioritize profit over humanity. In an age of information overload and media spin, his words challenge us to look beyond the surface, to uncover the truths hidden in plain sight. As the dust settles, or rather, as the smoke clears, one thing remains clear. The conversation Gibson started is far from over. His allegations have sparked investigations, inspired independent research, and reignited public skepticism about the forces shaping our world. Whether his claims are ultimately proven or debunked, they have served as a wake-up call, urging us to pay closer attention to the mechanisms of control that operate behind the scenes. In the end, Gibson's exposé is not just about the LA wildfires. It's about a broader fight for transparency, accountability, and the preservation of our collective agency. It's a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming power, the truth has a way of coming to light. The flames may have consumed homes and landscapes, but they've also illuminated a path forward, one where questioning, investigating, and speaking out are our greatest tools against manipulation. The firestorm Gibson unleashed is one that refuses to be extinguished, and its embers continue to spark curiosity, defiance, and a relentless pursuit of the truth.